What's going on, nation? Today we're talking energy. Oh, we're talking energy, and we might have to bring it down.
Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab.
All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going.
How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much do you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? Like, what you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real. We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing. I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2. I've built an AI myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if they're all they're going to do is hurt humanity? Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
There we go, nation. It's Monday. Live in the Lab with myself, Keith Bilous, and today we're raising the frequency. We are. Jamie Zajac's joining me today live in the lab. It's going to be a different show. I suspect it is, but that is what we do here in the lab. We do things a little differently here. Hold on a second here. I got to check what's happening. Because I know y'all like the camera angles, especially my friend Maruk. And she's like, you got like 1,000 cameras. I do. So there we go. Oh, that one. There we go. That one right there. Boom. All right. So we're going to raise the frequency. I'm going to bring down the energy. Don't bring the energy down here. No, we just do things differently. This is what we're going to do. But before we get too far, I had a wonderful moment this morning on Mornings in the Lab that I want to share with y'all. So yesterday was horrible. Horrible. My hockey team lost. I talked about it this morning, but I guess to talk about it again here for a moment. Yeah, my hockey team lost yesterday. My hockey team lost on Friday. Fuck, man, my hockey team just losing all over the place. So by Wednesday, hockey might be over for me. So just be wary of Moody Keith coming through the week here in the lab. But anyways, on Friday, I met a young man named Tony Elmore. I saw his journey through LinkedIn, coming out of the woodwork, vertical videos making its way onto the feed. And as much as I know that we all love video, Tony has been working his way and working the courage toward bringing video into his life. And I saw last week, he's like, all right, I'm going to get in front of the camera and I'm going to put myself out there. Now, I know you know how it feels. For some of us, it's not very comfortable. For some, that's pretty comfortable. I've been doing it a couple times in my life. Been showing up for a few days doing this. But Tony gets on the old camera last week and he says, hey, I got this offer I've been working on. And before that, he's been slowly revealing his offer. But then last week, he gets in front of the camera, gets in front of the microphone and goes, boom, and puts his offer out there. I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's awesome because A, the guy got the courage to put himself out there. B, it's awesome that he's been showing up just regularly. C, it's awesome because that's how you build trust, And I'm like, I need to do something about this. I went and knocked on Tony's door. I'm like, boom, boom, boom. Hey, Tony. He's like, yes, Keith. I'm like, I want to learn about your offer. So he comes in, tells me his offer, and I just left the call with him jacked right up because we all know that I got no energy. So I end the call with Tony and my head's spinning. I'm not sleeping. I'm all wired up. And I think to myself, I have an idea for Tony Elmore. So I thought to myself, let's put a little surprise together for Tony. And let's use the platform that we have here in the lab to surprise Tony on Monday. So this is what we did for Tony Elmore this weekend here in the lab. And I revealed it today. And I'll tell you right now, it's happening. Watch.
I want to surprise somebody on the platform and I want your help. I grabbed a coffee with Tony Elmore after I saw his video pitch a couple days ago. I watched Tony's journey to become vulnerable enough to unleash himself with video. And I saw how he got the courage to say, here's my offer. So you know what I did? I reached out to hear about his offer. And you know what he's making? He's making a 1-minute motion animated elevator pitch for you. But he's starting from scratch. And this is where you and me can help. I want to create a wait list for Tony. I want to get 20 people on his list signing up ready to go. So here's what we're going to do. Convinced him to get the first 5 people for $1,000 a piece. Dude, his solution is $5,000. Now, if we're all building personal brands, we all need elevator pitches, don't we? So join me in supporting Tony. No, I'm not getting paid for this. I just think it'd be pretty cool if we can help a guy out. And could you imagine if we created a wait list for the guy?
So you know what? We created a wait list for the guy. Awesome. So We put them out today. We put that post out this morning. I've signed up. Evan Marks has signed up. We got 3 more spots available at the $1,000 price point. Then it goes up. Then it goes up to $2,000 for 5 spots. And then the next 5 spots is at $3,000. You're getting some great value from the guy. What you're going to get, you're going to get a vertical video, 1 minute. You're going to get some motion animations. It's going to tell you it's going to tell your audience what you do. So allow me to tell you what I'm using it for. So, we have this awesome feature called Creator Spotlight that we pick a creator on LinkedIn, soon Instagram, and we look at them and we think, oh my God, they're doing great work. We take this big old light and we shine it on them, and we shine it brightly. And then we make content about them and then distribute it, celebrating them, surprising them, and telling the world about the great work this person's doing. So it is clearly a highly sponsorable piece of media. We're shining the light, a lot of greatness. So I've asked Tony to put together for me a vertical video, a motion pitch, a 1-minute template, my elevator pitch on how we're going to sell the Creator Spotlight. So you can watch that process unfolding here in the lab over the coming weeks. So I invite you to go check out Tony Elmore's profile, go follow him, go and sign up. Let's build that wait list for Tony. It just fills the theme from this morning. Before we move over to our friend Jamie Zajac, our theme this morning was go knock on somebody's door, go feed some positive energy, go and think about somebody and call them up today or send them a message and say, hey, just thinking about you. It's pretty powerful when you send energy elsewhere. Is that not the case, Jamie Zajac?
I love this story because it just goes to show that I feel like a lot of people come from this place of like needing to compete, and there's lack and it's limitation. And when we can really step into, like, I call it the new earth. It's the new earth that we're stepping into. It's the new paradigm. And in the new paradigm, we don't need to like hold it all in. We can share and trust that everything's going to come back around. And that in this new earth that we're stepping into, it's all about collaboration rather than competition. Because when we really think that we have to hold it in and it's lack and we can't share it out, that's where we create this resistance and the abundance doesn't come in. So I love that you're doing that, because not a lot of people are willing to do that. And people are so competitive with everything in business now.
But it's funny, Jamie, because I am competitive, and I know that, competition is part of your life and has been part of your life. So I am competitive, but it's recently dawned on me that the more collaborative and the more love I give, there's almost a competitiveness to that as well, because I can outcompete you with my love. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go and shine a light on Tony. And then Tuesday, I'm going to shine a light on somebody else. And then Wednesday. So I'm inviting somebody else to try to outbeat us at shining a light on somebody. And, I know it's somewhat goofy, but it's very fulfilling, this idea of giving energy, because I know that it will come back. That's how it works, Jamie Zajac.
Always. And like, I think even when you overgive, there is a sense of overgiving at times when we deplete ourselves. But are we willing to receive? We have to be willing to open and receive that. And some people are blocked in their capability to receive. But it really just goes to show that the more that we give, we can, even if it's not being reciprocated in this one area that we think it's going to come back from, the universe always comes forward and brings it in another way.
Yeah.
Like competition, it's like, we're all competitive, but I'm competitive mostly with myself. And that's like my biggest thing, always trying to push myself to the next level. And, that's why I loved individual sports. It was always like my big sport was tennis growing up, that I played competitive tennis, and I'm always trying to like push myself to the next level. So I don't compete as much with other people in this, but I love, I just feel like the more that we, if I can showcase someone else and know that not everybody's going to be for me, not everyone's going to be for them. It's all a vibration and a frequency. So some people are going to be a match to my gifts and what I share and my work that I do, but not everybody's going to be a match to that. And they're going to go to someone else, and everyone's kind of aligning with what's true for them and the vibrational match.
Interesting. So let's dig into that. But before we go, before we get into that part of our chat, let's pause for a moment, Jamie, and take a little bit of time to introduce you to Nation. So you're not just a guide, you're a gateway to higher understanding. You're a soul activator, a spiritual guide. You speak about people who might be struggling to connect with their deeper purpose. You help them tap into a space that brings forth some wisdom and activations. Would I be fair to say that you help people expand beyond their perceived limits, using energy and embracing someone's soul? So we're going to have somewhat of an esoteric conversation today. It might be a conversation that people would not be thinking they're coming from Mr. Uncle Bilous's mouth, but he's all ears. And I think our ambition today is to allow our conversation to be guided through our energy, your energy, my energy. And before the show, you said to me, I don't know you. I don't know much about you. I've told Jamie, and just for full disclosure to the audience, I know Jamie's husband, Darcy, but she said, I have not asked Darcy much about you. But I believe as we have our conversation today, you're going to do some reading, some energy flow from me, and we're going to have a back and forth. Is that a fair way to set this thing up today?
Yeah, I feel that's how it's going to come through. Every time when I feel like I have the sense that, you know, I'm going to give someone a reading or something's going to come through for them. I know like some intuitives, they like to know information, and that can be great. I like to go into every session like not knowing anything. It's sort of my favorite way. And typically with a session with me is some people, like I say, yeah, you can have questions and intentions, but I always just kind of go in. I like to not know anything, and I just kind of see what comes through. And typically by the end of the session, their questions are already answered. So yeah.
I'm a curious soul. I'm a curious, and I believe that's what, you know, attracts our audience, is they know I'm curious. I've become fans of of the person sitting in the chair across from me, and I'm already a fan because I'm people can see what I'm shuffling around. I get all excited. So before we get into all of that, allow me to pause, Jamie, and ask you. You made a comment before we got on the stream, and it was you know, pre and post. So I'm going to simplify it. How did you know you were an intuitive? How did you end up here? Did you wake up one day and you're like, yeah, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Right. And then just light went on, or I don't think it's that simple. So I'm going to stop talking, and I really want to hear how you ended up here.
Yeah. So yeah, I always say this to people. Like if you were to told me now that, or before 5, 10 years ago, however many years ago it was, that I would be doing this work, I would have told you that you're absolutely crazy. There's absolutely no way. And, you know, sort of how I was guided to this work is I always kind of was intuitive. I just, now that I am now, I realize what that was. Growing up as a child, I always had, you know, a higher connection, but I grew up in an environment where I was in survival mode for a lot of my childhood. I have a lot of childhood trauma and grew up in sort of a challenging dynamic. And so my gifts weren't able to awaken at that time because I was kind of just trying to get by, and not all was bad, but it was just the way that it was for me as a child. And so I always kind of felt like I was out of place. I never really felt like I belonged. I always felt kind of like an alien on this planet. And that's just sort of the way I grew up. I never felt like never felt like Earth was my home. And so I kind of, growing up, you know, I'm in my mid-20s, and I'm working in a corporate environment back in Winnipeg, where you are. And I start to, you know, I'm going out, I'm drinking, I'm doing all the things you do in your 20s. And I just was hitting like a breaking point where I was super depressed. I was low. I was like hitting rock bottom, anxiety, just everything was coming up for me. And I knew at that point that I was living a life that wasn't in alignment with who I came here to be. I was kind of hanging around with people that weren't really for my best and highest good. And I always believed that there was more for me in this life. I always believed that I have a bigger mission, and not really knowing the right terms to call it at that stage in my life. But I felt chained to a desk, and I knew that that wasn't part of my soul's path. And so at that time, my husband, Darcy, was finishing off his hockey career in Europe. And I decided to leave that job, and I really started to focus on bettering myself. So instead of just reading the books of like mindset and, you know, what do you call it? Self-care, all that stuff, and spiritual books. I've always been very spiritual. I actually started applying it to my life. So instead of just, you know, we can read things and do all the things and take all the things, but unless we're actually applying it to our life, nothing's going to change. So I began to really dive deep and really commit to this. And I started to kind of break away from friendship groups that weren't really for my highest good. And I moved to Europe with my husband. This is before we were married. And that's when I really started to meditate, and I started to get a lot of information. I started to feel energy and communicate with different energies. And so we were moving back, and I knew that I wanted to do, yoga was kind of like my gateway drug, because I knew I was going back to a corporate environment. It just wasn't for my soul and my highest path. So I started, yoga was like my gateway drug to spirituality. And so I went and did some yoga teacher trainings. And while I was there, this is in California, while I was there, I went to these meditations on the breaks. And I started to go to different healers. And, this is in LA, but then we moved to Vancouver. And I started to go to different healers and do different things as a way to heal myself from like trauma that I've experienced. And every single healer that I would go to would be like, you're really psychic, like you're really gifted, you're meant to do this work. And I was like, me? I don't think so. And they're like, yeah, you could probably give me a reading right now. And so then in those moments, like the person that was giving me a reading, I'd end up giving them a reading. It was wild. And so I just started to really develop my gifts and in that way. And I started to have weird divine interventions, I call them. I would be on airplanes and I'd sit next to this person who was, this spiritual channel, and they'd start channeling for me and telling me about things about my soul path, and like weird stuff like that started to happen, weird synchronicities. I call them divine encounters that can help you kind of set you up on your highest path. And so just through that process is really just how I opened up to my gifts. And my daughter, who's 2 years old, after the birth of her, everything kind of really went online a lot more. So that's kind of my path. It was really, I stumbled into it as just kind of a way to know that there's more for me than what I'd experienced, and really wanting to find my purpose and path and my mission in life.
Jamie, I'm struck by the comment, and I have it across the ticker here, which was, I never felt like Earth was my home.
Mm-hmm.
That strikes me.
Yeah, because you're a starseed.
Expand on that, though. On. So, like, because that was early in your journey. It wasn't the end part of your journey. There was something shined a light on you as you were becoming curious. You had this feeling, and it's like, wow, I don't know if this really is a place for me. Now, to somebody listening to us right now, they're being quizzical, thinking, what the hell
is she talking about?
Yeah. So I really want to dig into this comment, because people will struggle to relate to that comment.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, I mean, I think people will struggle to relate to that, but I think there's also a lot of people who have felt that deep down within themselves, that this planet feels a little weird for me. And so it's really about tapping into the multidimensionality of our soul and recognizing that we're more than just this human physical body. We're souls. We're having a human experience. And many of us have lifetimes on other planets and other places, and we have lifetimes from this planet and past lives. And so there is this there's this term, a starseed is where your home is more in the stars rather than on this earth plane. And so when you live when you're here, it can feel like a foreign environment, like you're not really, many people struggle to find that feeling of home within themselves, really, and know that there's just something more to their soul than everything that they've experienced.
So that moment of realization, Jamie, spurred further curiosity for you, correct? Because I'm thinking, had you not had that realization or moment of that feeling of, I don't know if I belong here, if I should be here, Earth seems foreign to me. Mm-hmm. That seemed to me that it opened the door for more curiosity. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I think it's just this, I've always had that weird, sense as a child that I feel like I got dropped in the wrong place. Like, this isn't my real family. How did I get dropped in this physical place to go through this life experience? And and through that path, it really, as I questioned more and opened myself up more to, like, there's more than just this life. There's more than just, there's more to it than what I think there is. And that's where I've been on this path of opening up, I guess, to different realms of consciousness and really understanding the path of our souls and our soul's journey of why we go through certain things. Why do we experience certain things on this, this life path that we're on? And I think what I hope to help people with is to help form a deeper understanding of their life experiences and to understand that there is more to ourselves and our soul than just this physical earth experience. And the more that we can connect with that and our higher selves, we can really, live a life that is more in alignment with our highest path and truth and why we really came here. Because we all came here for a reason and a purpose. And I feel like probably a lot of people watching this are still struggling to find their sense of purpose and mission. And so that in itself is this understanding that you came here for a reason, and that there is more than just this physical body. There's our soul. And the more that we can connect with our soul, the more that we can receive our information from our soul and live that higher aligned path.
When I, excuse me, when I hear your story, there's a clear path. You spoke about some trauma growing up, and then you spoke about your journey of recognition, your journey of understanding things, your journey of shedding your past.
Yeah.
Now that takes considerable courage to not connect with friends you've grown with, or not spend time with people who you thought were your friends. So to shed that and to move forward into your own soul. Talk about that process, because there's somebody right now, Jamie, listening to us right now, who is stuck and they're wanting to take the step that you took. Whether they, and we're gonna get to, you know, the gifts and your intuitive and so forth. But right now, I really want to focus on you found the courage to move from here to here, which people listening right now are going, I really want to get there, but I don't know how, and I'm scared to do it. I can't, all these friends of mine, or they're my friends, but you're like, well, no, but are they really your friends? Are they helping you get to your spot in life? Are they really part of your purpose? Speak about the courage it took you to get there, how you dealt with it, and maybe even tactically, and how you emotionally continue to move forward through that, Jamie.
Yeah. So, I don't want to say I've let go of all, I still have my OGs who are still,
Sure.
my OGs, but, you go through life and you have different people. And I think that my biggest, I always say my greatest gift, but my biggest lesson in life is my family. And I've had to shed a lot of that in order to, live my path and be happy. You have to let go of sort of toxic connections that aren't for our highest and greatest good. And you know what? A lot of people right now, what's happening is there are a lot of, I like to talk a lot about soul contracts. And maybe this can help people understand what the question that you asked me. But when we can see things as like a soul contract, we make business contracts all the time, but we also make soul contracts, and it happens on a soul level. So some of these contracts are karmic experiences. And when I talk about that is that oftentimes when we talk about karmic experiences, they are here to help us evolve in some way, or we're learning a lesson. And in order to learn that lesson, these people come in. They're like our, these figures, we'll call them, come in. And we have a contract with them in order to release karma, learn a lesson, and evolve. So some people come into our lives for a reason. Some people are in our lives to be there for the long term, and not everybody is there to be in their long term. And a lot of things that are happening right now is that there's a lot of soul contracts ending and shifting, and a lot of new renewals, and new people are ready to come in. But sometimes we have to let go of those old connections in order to evolve and step into this next level and bring in the people, the frequency that are meant to be in our lives to evolve. So I talk about soul groups. So a lot of people are releasing sort of like old connections, soul contracts come in with like coworkers, or, often places where you live, your home, you have soul contracts with many different people. And so a lot of people are shedding these old sort of like deep lessons that we keep having with the same person over and over and over again. And sometimes you have to close that door, drop the ropes in order to evolve and expand and raise our frequency. And sometimes people are going to come back around, but not everybody will. But it's important that you hold your vibration and your frequency and step into that level rather than being pulled down by the same people. So what would happen if we drop the ropes? What would we drop the ropes if we, drop those things that kept pulling us, and we can feel it. We can feel that pull. And it took the leap and really trusted that there is more than just this experience that we've been living with the same people.
So I'm pausing because I'm taking it all in, and I'm thoroughly enjoying where we're at now. So I'm really understanding a good picture of where Jamie came from, how Jamie got here, how Jamie sees the world. I'll crack some humor because I'm all about entertaining and informing. So she goes to bed on Friday, wakes up on Monday. She's an intuitive. She's like, yeah. You just see the world in a really cool place now. So fast forwarding our story, you see the world, and so let me just back it up. What in layman's terms is an intuitive human being? What does that mean for you, and what does that mean for me listening, and what does that mean for our audience?
Is an intuitive human being? Well, we're all intuitive. Everybody's psychic. Everybody's intuitive. And I always say to people that if I can do this, everyone can. And one of my biggest passions in life is to show people that they have the ability to channel, and the more that we can really learn how to read frequency and energy, and the more that, for better terms, and the more that we can trust our intuition and learn how to connect with our higher self, the greater that we can save a lot of time and energy when we learn how to read energy.
Oh, I love that. So,
and trust that, and trust what you're getting. So think of how many times you've been in like a business situation, for example, where something feels off, but the appearance is
I
really
call it my gut. I call it my gut. As I've grown older, my gut is such a big part of my decision process. So I guess that's energy, isn't it? Because I go into a room, I go into a situation, and I'm feeling something.
Weird. Yeah. You have a lot of feeling, like feeler. I feel like you're very visionary, but your energy is very feeling. And a lot of times that is your gut. That is your gut. But I think you have a lot of heart-based energy. Your energy in your heart is where a lot of information can come from. When you really can when you can really ground this energy, because you have a lot of amazing energy, you have a very open energy field, which is a good thing. But the more that you can kind of like take this energy and ground it down, and like I always say, sorry if we're getting off topic, but
No, good.
Help people. If you can move this energy, I always say, like, imagine that there's a ball of energy in your head.
Yes.
And it represents your consciousness, your awareness. You can pick a color. Imagine dropping that all the way down through your jaw, through your throat, and in your heart space. And just feel what it would feel like for your focus, your consciousness, your awareness to be in that place. And kind of feel your energy begin to settle and ground and root into your body. So you have your soul is really out of your body, because it feels like you're very visionary, you're very forward focus. That's like a really big gift of yours. You're here to have like really big, wild ideas and follow through with them. But not everybody's going to understand your ideas, but you're getting sort of like the future. You're getting future information. That's what your soul came here to do. You're like an innovator. And the more that you can kind of like ground in this excited energy, because you're meant to be excited. You're meant to be, getting all like, that's just you living on path, is you being like really pumped up and excited about something. But what's really going to help is you like grounding in this energy, is you have a lot of new ideas that are coming through, but it needs you to come back down in your body a little bit more.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because it seems that that's happening in the mornings with myself and Nicole, as we've discovered this creator spotlight, taking all this energy and finding somebody and then shining the light on them. It's like I'm taking my energy and Nicole's energy. And I'm like, okay, Jamie, let's go and identify, Tony Elmore, for example. And I'm like, I love what he's doing. Let's go take his energy and let's just go and take mine and Nicole's. Let's go magnify it. But it feels so awesome to take it from my idea in my head and then channel it down into my body, into my heart, and then from my heart to my mouth, and then just express it. And then when I see things happen, it's just like it feeds itself back to me. And I've got a lot of great joy of especially with this show and this platform we're building, of sharing love. So I guess that to me is like that's centered. I'm taking what's happening out here and I'm bringing it here and I'm expressing it outward.
Yeah. You're like, when you can communicate from your heart, that's sometimes like, rather than from the head, it's like the heart. And that's where that's when, you're in like this rooted place. That's where the energy is meant to come from, is your heart. Dude,
you said rooted. So if I had the clip ready, I maybe I should find it. But on Friday, I was surprised by, Thursday, whatever it was, I received a clip, and it was a Tony Robbins clip. And it talked about, what are you really good at? What are you rooted in? Are you a creator? Are you an entrepreneur, or are you a manager leader? And the way he spoke about it for 7 minutes, and it was an eye opener for me, because I'm rooted in being a creator. I thought I was an entrepreneur, but I get so much joy out of creating and sharing that love with all of you. Like I've sold myself short on making money time and time again, because I get so much joy on just creating and sharing the love, and I'm rooted in that. So his question for his audience was, what are you really rooted in? Which is where you come from, your energy of what are you rooted in, right? Like, what's your root of your purpose, your existence? What moves the needle for you as a human being?
And what's interesting with that is that I think a lot of people have this like big sense of like, what's purpose? This complex thing, but it's very simple. And we have many purposes in our life, and especially you have like multiple. You're meant to have many purposes. It's not meant to be just one thing, but in the simplest way, it's like creator, it's innovator. That's just like what I see. It's like innovator, creator, embodying the love. And it's like it's amazing that you can really say that as like a male, is that you come from your heart and soul, because not a lot of men are open and willing to be saying that.
But I've been fortunate because I get the opportunity to sit and speak with humans every single day. And what I've learned in my journey of doing this is that it takes two people to have a conversation. Boom, right? And when you can become vulnerable from your heart and learn how to communicate that from your heart through your words and through your brain and bring it all out, people connect with that, and energy connection happens and magic happens. And when magic happens, well, anything can happen, frankly.
Because that's when you're in your soul. Your heart is where your
the soul contract, right? The soul contract we're having, right?
Yeah.
Because we're exchanging a contract now, because I can sense even right now as we're speaking, we're becoming closer together because I'm opening up more to you. You are coming closer to me, and our conversation is becoming, I'm going to use the word becoming more intimate, because there's a soul contract happening here, right? And I can see it and I can sense it. We're 34 minutes in, right? We started over here, but it's getting even closer now.
It always, isn't that amazing when like people, you start a conversation and it kind of is up here, and then we drop down into our where we get more rooted and grounded. We ground in this energy that started, and then the conversation really flows and kind of takes on a fun turn.
It's true. It's absolutely true. Yeah. So you've used the word a couple of times, and I'm going to bring it up again.
Let's bring it up.
Psychic.
Yes.
People are going to tune in. They're going to listen to this. They're going to say, Bilous, it's not 1980, man. It's not 1994. The year of the psychic is gone with, what was that TV show that she found them, helped find murderers and cops and robbers? Anyways, not relevant. But my point is, the term's not often spoken about in 2024.
No, like I don't like to use that term for that reason. I sort of go away from the word psychic because people have this weird misconception around it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just, everyone's going to have their own, things around different, words. But so I think intuitive is a bit more inviting. A lot of people can sort of handle that a little bit more, but we all have these abilities. We all are psychic, and for lack of a better term, I love that you say that. A lot of people think like listening to this are like, I guess not really open to this potentially, but it's funny because a lot of my clients are like leaders, and some of them are in like really high level corporate jobs and are entrepreneurs in every different form, right? And a lot of people are opening up to this. A lot of people in like corporate environments are really opening up to this because there is more to this. And when, you can open up to your own gifts, most importantly, and trust and follow that you're your own best guide. Again, like the greater you can save time and effort. And I think that what is beautiful as an entrepreneur is when you learn how to channel for yourself, which is something I love teaching people, so that you can bring forward information and trust like the information that's coming through for you, and really live and use your gifts within your chosen field. And so it's fascinating because, I've had high-level corporate financial male come to me for a session, and it's fascinating to see the soul contracts that are happening within the business environment and tap into it from a soul level and help people in those those roles.
Now, the way you explain it that way, Jamie, makes complete sense to me, because as society has evolved and gotten smart, we're just open to more things, right? So we have coaches for so many different parts of our life as a human being. Why would we not open our mind and open our idea to having an intuitive in our life? Somebody who brings a different point of view, somebody who sees the world through a different lens, or encourages me to see the world through a different lens. So if I'm going to go to a therapist or a business coach or an entrepreneurial coach, I absolutely can see the reason why I would want to have you in my life as well, because you bring, and I'm going to think that you encourage me to look at or uncover things within myself that somebody else is not bringing awareness to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a different lens, right?
Yes.
And it's sort of like I read the soul, or I channel. I just say, don't shoot the messenger. Like I just go in and I pull information, and I'm just sharing what's coming through for you potentially in your soul, or I tap into kind of like collective energy and see kind of what's coming through. So it's like, the way it is, it's like I'm tapping into like the iCloud of information. I have access to it. You have access to it. Everybody has access to it. And really, the more that everybody can access their own, this iCloud of information that's always available, it can help them in their business. it. And so rather like if it's someone like me who helps, taps in for you and you can ask questions and really just see what comes through, right? Or
Mhm.
someone can tap in for themselves. And that is the most powerful place, is when we can really, and kind of where we're moving to is when we can use our gifts in business or in everyday life, and understanding sort of the higher perspective of why certain things happen. What are we being drawn to do? What does our soul want? Why did our soul come here? And help understand those bigger questions and sort of lead where you need to go. That would be part of your higher path.
Am I painting a broad brush if I'm thinking that this is very much a generational thing? I am thinking in my head, correct me, that
Mhm.
there's not many 50, 60-year-old white corporate men in America calling Jamie Zajac.
Yes and no. It's changing. It's
Okay, I
changing
would
a lot.
think so, right?
I would say it's shifting quite a bit. You're going to see a lot of this open up a lot more. Men, it's funny. Guys are more guys, because before when I first started, it was all like women and all of that. But now a lot of guys are coming in. It's really interesting. I think a lot of males are going through a huge awakening, and it's kind of funny to see how things have shifted. But yeah, I guess you could say generational, but it's changing quite a bit. I would say you'd be surprised at how many people are open to this.
I'm again, my perception, Jamie, is it's a younger demographic. It's the 30, 40, younger 50-year-old who is progressive, is open to trying, is curious, right? And is looking for an edge perhaps too. No?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the older generation, like trying to explain this to my dad, what I do is like,
Right. How do you do that?
you just like, it's funny because they kind of become more open to it, because
Yes.
stuff happens to me. Like I get messages that are blow my mind, and I have to tell them, like parent, for example, about like rather if it was like a passed over loved one came through with a message, sometimes I feel like I have to share it with them, and it kind of like opens the door a little bit. I would say like these conversations kind of like turn the key a little bit and open up people's perception to what is possible.
Okay. So you just made a comment that sometimes you'll receive messages. So are you suggesting that you'll receive messages from a past one and you'll receive it? So if my grandmother or somebody in my life has passed, you might get a message and you'll just call me up and say, "Hey, I got this message for you."
Like no, it would be more for like I mean, I don't like to tap into that. Has recently happened for a friend of mine, but I don't go open and like read everybody all the time. I think that's what a lot of people think. Like,
Yeah.
I'm meeting people, I share what I say, and they're like, oh my God, is she reading me? It's like, no, I would be like so bombarded with energy if I didn't have energetic boundaries. But sometimes I'll get something with like a family member, or sometimes that does happen.
They're like, "Don't let Jamie in the room."
Yeah. Was she going to read me? What is she going to tell me? A lot of people that comes to me are like, what is she going to say to me? Uh-oh. I'm kind of nervous, but it's all love. It's all, it's really just not a lot of information needs to be surprised. It's sort of like, oh, your soul understands, your soul. It's like a soul level knowing.
So when you spend time with somebody doing a reading,
Yeah.
my assumption, Jamie, it's always in person. Are you able to do it through the camera like we're doing right now?
The only way I do it is through Zoom.
Oh, okay. So it's not interest.
Most of my clients are in the States or Europe or Australia.
Interesting. Okay. So it's just like we are doing right now.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what does what does it look like for you to do a reading with so take me through that. I call you up and I'm like, "Hey, I want to do a reading." And we said, because I'm being flippant and simple, because I'm really ideating this very much to me calling a coach, me calling a therapist, me calling my mentor and saying, "Hey, can I spend an hour with you? I got some questions. I got some things I'm curious about. I need some help with this."
Yeah.
It's actually no different. You're just coming at it with me through a different lens and offering a different point of view. And that's what I got to be frank with you, is very welcoming to me. It's actually very unexpected of me, because I'm like, oh, I see where you fit in the food chain.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a soul coach, soul alignment.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And so, but it's from less of like, I guess a coach would be coming. I mean, it just depends on the coach. I feel there's some coaches who have like a pre-scripted way of doing things.
Yes.
And it's scripted, but like the best coaches don't have that. It's very much like it's like they're channeling themselves. But for me, like what that would look like is sometimes people come with an intention or something they want to know or questions, or some people don't even know why, they just book. It's an energy thing, and I will just typically my sessions, everybody's so different in how they channel or do things, but I don't like to know a lot of things. I like to start seeing what's coming through, and sometimes people ask questions or along the path, but often I'll just go in and I kind of meditate and I connect with the energy, and I'll just start talking, and the information just kind of, it's like word vomit, just comes through so fastly a lot of times. And a lot of times by the end of the session, there's questions or intentions already answered, but sometimes they have further questions on top of like what's already coming through. And the amazing thing is when someone's channeling or bringing through information, people's vibration, you can sometimes feel your vibration shifts, or you feel a transformation in your body. So you feel lighter when you leave the session, because a lot more comes through. It's an energy that comes through beyond the words that can help shift your energy. And so a lot of people leave feeling a lot lighter, or that they've been worked on energetically in some way.
Yes. Oh, I love this. There are some shows I'll do with somebody, Jamie, and I can tell it's going to happen today.
Yeah.
I literally have to either go for a walk, I have to go lay on the couch for 20 minutes, half an hour, but I find myself having to, I'm looking for a word here.
Ground.
Ground, decompress. It's just like, because I've had such an engaging conversation with a soul contract with another human being, and the energy that comes between me and the other human, when I leave here, I guess it's grounding, right? I'm like, okay, it's almost like I have to exhale. It's like, oh man, I gotta just take all that in. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's called like integration or grounding. So a lot of times after session, I think everybody needs to ground more. I find being out in nature is so helpful, or just going and putting your feet on the grass. It's so helpful. It pulls people back into their bodies, because a lot of people who are anxious, or this is getting off topic, but if they're anxious or they're constantly in their heads or out of their bodies, it's a sign that they're they're out of their bodies. They're not grounded in their bodies.
Of course.
So a lot of people need to focus on grounding their energy. And so my favorite ways, I go cold dipping every day. I go swimming in the ocean throughout winter. Even when it's pouring rain, I find that that's what helps me the most. So grounding, putting your feet on the earth, connecting with the earth is really going to help integrate the information and also the energy that's feeling. So that's probably why it's just like, whoa, your mind opens, something gets stirred in your soul, and you're like, okay, now I need to like integrate and ground in this information. And I'm sure like sometimes when I just feel like you're like such a natural channel. And sorry, I look because I see things. And so I look off to a distance because information's coming through. But I feel like you're such a natural channel that how many times do you probably get off these things and be like, what did I just say?
Yeah, there's sometimes I don't even, so it's funny because I have to sometimes look back at the transcripts to recall our conversations because I don't want to say I talk so much, but I listen so much. But I really try to be intent. I try to pay so much attention. I'm very focused on being intentional with my words. I'm very focused on being intentional with my questions. And there'll be often times, Jamie, when I'm done this show that I forgot about the questions that I've asked and I don't know why that is, but it happens to me.
Yeah, it's probably because your soul's coming over. Your soul's taking over. And sometimes when there's something like bigger happening that comes over you, and that's what happens when I channel, is that I often don't really remember the session. Sometimes I remember bits and pieces of information, and sometimes I don't. Like I'll say, I don't like to focus a lot too much on, like, some people come to me and we're like, when am I going to meet my boyfriend? And that's not really, I'm more of like a soul purpose. Like
Yes.
How can I help you with your soul? Not these like silly questions, or you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, so that's more of like it's more of like a soul purpose, soul connection. But sometimes I get future dates for people. So people will ask a question, and I'll get like a date of when something might happen. But oftentimes what I channel, they like to focus on the present moment, because we're constantly creating our reality. And so this moment, especially a lot of people who are on a path of higher evolution, or on like a really fast track energy, they're kind of on their path. Everything's always shifting. So they're really in the moment, like creating their reality. Whereas someone who's kind of in a lower vibrational place, it's a little bit more rigid. The timeline's a bit more fixed. So you can kind of get different, I don't know, it just depends on the information, but a lot of people can make things happen quicker than they think they can when they're in a different vibrational state. Or manifesting. Manifesting is a great word for people to grasp.
People can get things done when they're in a better mental state. That to me sounds like, I often would call it something like monk mode, where I'm just focused, I'm in a flow, and I am just think shit's getting done. Like it's just coming out of me. Like just it's just flowing out of my soul. And there's days where I'll go 20 hours, and I'm sleep for a few and go again. And it just keeps coming out. And then sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. So it seems like the way that your energy works is that it's meant to do, like, I wouldn't be surprised, this is getting like way off, but if you were like a generator in human design, that's like a whole other ball game, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was your type. It's kind of like astrology. You're like meant to do big energy, like you're meant to do work, a lot in a short amount of time. And then when you're done, it's like time to take a break and rest your energy a little bit. So you work in really fast spurts and get a lot done, a lot comes through. And then when it's done, you kind of like take a moment to pause and break. And then you kind of get back and, you get more information when you're resting a little bit. And that's kind of when you're integrating, you're resting, you're kind of preparing for your next wave of momentum to happen. So the best way to work with that is something that you're probably already doing, but it's to just ride that momentum and like you have no other choice. I think it's like, it seems like your soul just kind of takes over. It's like, all right, we're doing this. There's no holding back. And it's like you're working with a wave of energy and flow. So when we work with higher flow we can get a lot more done in less time than when we're trying to work at it in a linear way. So magic and logic don't really mix. And intuition is not logical. It doesn't make any sense. So the way that you work is probably not going to be the way that everybody works, but we're not meant to just work 8 hours and that's it, 9 to 5 and that's it. That's very linear. It's very limiting. Some people, obviously everybody's so different, but you, especially when you're in a creative innovator, you're meant to work in these like waves of energy. And then, okay, now it's time to decompress. And that's when you kind of just chill out or do different things. And then the path comes back around and you kind of take off again.
It's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's like the engine gets reared up, and then it churns, and then it winds down, and then I ramp it back up again.
Yeah.
Right. And always, so, and I'm a big believer in just focusing on the results. So when I'm working with teams or working with human beings, I don't really care how you get to the end, because you might have a different way than I do. And please teach me if it's more effective than mine. But I'm just really about, let's get to the results. Right. Because the results are all that matters.
That's what I hated about working in a corporate environment, is that I just don't like I'm good at when I get into my mode. This is back when I worked, but I would get into my mode and I just want to get it done. And then I'd be sitting there being like, well, I don't like to waste time. I could just leave. Like, I don't want to take an hour lunch break. I just want to get this done and be done for the day. And so I feel like in general, the work, there's a lot of old paradigms that are falling away, especially in business. A lot of things are crumbling. We're seeing a lot of that. A lot of things are crumbling. A lot of things that aren't authentic or part of this new paradigm are crumbling and falling away. And so that happened with around like COVID. A lot of things started to shift and crumble.
Yes.
And the way we work is so different now. And so when, businesses can kind of be more forward thinking into the new paradigm of how things are shifting rather than trying to hang on to the old. I think this is everybody in general. We have to let go of the old way and adapt to this new way of how we're meant to work, how we're meant to run businesses in this new way of doing things. And a lot of it's unknown. A lot of it is paving a new way that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but that a lot of people are sitting in a lot of unknowns because the old ways aren't working anymore and we have to shift. But a lot of people are afraid of making that shift to the new way of doing things. And it's not grinding it out 7 days a week and burning yourself out. There's a new way of doing things. And it really is catching that wave. It's like surfing.
I think that's where I'm finding my groove is because I'm ancient, like I've been around for like BC, AD, like I'm ancient, but yet I'm also, I believe, able to stick my foot on the other side of the line and hang out with my young friends and my kids. And I say this obviously tongue in cheek because my kid's like, no, you're just a bad dad with bad dad jokes. I'm a great dad, just bad dad jokes. My point is this. I feel like I can step into both sides of the universe. I can see the shift happening.
Yeah.
Because I'm also, I can relate to the joking mile, my friends, all the old white guys in the towers of corporate America. I can kind of relate, but I also can relate to the entrepreneurs in their 20s and 30s working their way and trying to make their cash along the way. I can see the paradigm shift. I love what you're doing because you're offering a different lens. But here's the question I have for you. How do you sell yourself on the business side? Because here's where I want to help you. And here's where I want the audience to say, okay, so how do I get Jamie into my world? And then additionally though, Jamie, how are you actually marketing yourself? Like, how do you sell yourself? Do you do this very much a business question? Like, what do you do to sell Jamie Zajac, the intuitive?
Yeah. So here's the thing that where I struggle, I guess you could say, is that I just want to be doing my work. Like I'm very humble to an extent. And so my biggest work is having to, showcase myself in new ways. So and be less humble about what I do and really stop hiding in a way, stop hiding what I do. And that is probably like my biggest, what do you call it? Weakness is that I don't like the word selling. I don't like to sell myself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I rather just kind of show up and embody and share, my messages and whatever, and allow people to kind of gravitate to me if that's what they want to do. So, but there is a point where it's time to kind of market myself and get myself out there and kind of be less afraid of that word selling, because I'm not like a huge fan of like that word for some reason when it comes to what I do.
Yeah. So you remind me of somebody who was on my show. Hey, was Shake and Trisha Edwards, friend of the show. I need to connect you to. Because I think you need to learn from her that you both aren't selling. You're just great communicators.
Yeah.
Like great communicators do what they do. They communicate. And then people latch onto their words. They take their words and they kind of feel them. They connect with them and then they reach out.
Yeah.
So I now that you've been in this lab here once, I think we have some work to do to help you continue to communicate, get the reps in. Jamie Zajac, people want to hear your message. Yeah. People want to know what you have to say. We got to get you from behind the cloak and we got to get your message out there heard by more. Yeah. It's really clear to me where you like, again, you're going to call somebody for a coach for this. You're going to call somebody you might call a finance coach. You might call a physical coach, you might call a business coach, but if you want a soul coach, somebody to connect to your human, and anybody who listens to the show on a day-to-day basis, I'm a fan and I love humans. I just want to connect them all. So to me, we got to work on getting the soul coach, if you don't mind that word, but that's like connecting humans, right? And helping them see things through a different lens that they don't even know that they're seeing yet.
I love that you said like the soul coach aspect, because I feel like people.
You said it. I'm just amplifying what you said yourself.
But it's sort of like a way for people who are in this realm to grasp.
Yes.
Like I'm not going to a psychic. It's like a soul coach.
Exactly it.
So I have some people who I have wild experiences with who are, in this realm of what I do. But then there's the people that need that help who aren't really, what I love about my clients is that I have people who are like, I have some wild experiences who are very much in this realm, and that's great. But I also have the people who aren't, and I can help guide them and kind of put my feet, just like you said, in both realms, in both worlds, because people can relate to me, I think, in a way. And I think when people come to me, they realize it's not this like weird thing. It's very normal.
Bingo. That's it. So as we went through our hour and we got you on a 35 minute mark and you spoke about this idea of a soul coach, the light really started, not that it didn't go on originally, Jamie, but it became very relatable for me where you fit. Right. So if it's relatable for me, it starts to become relatable for everybody else. Like, okay, I see where she fits now. Right. She's not with all respect, not some weird psychic chick. No, she has a gift where she's intuitive. She's all about connecting with your soul. She's all about having a conversation with you, helping you see things through a different lens. Yeah. That's a really relatable story. You're a mother of a daughter. You're married, right? You do cold dips. A lot of people do cold dips. Like, you're very relatable, right? So the fact that you're again, I'm chazzing you. I'm branding you as soul coach.
Love it.
People are going to go, oh, I get that. Yeah, I need my soul worked on. And I got a lot of people into the lab that are like, yeah, I need my soul worked on. Yeah. Because especially when you relate to somebody who's like, wow, I'm in a tough spot in my life. I'm kind of stuck. Maybe it's within my soul. Okay.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Oh no, it's usually typically around there. Like a lot of people wonder why they're blocked, and there's a
What
few
does that
different
mean? Why they're blocked? When you say, what do you mean by that? Why they're blocked?
well, they're like feeling blocked. Like I feel like I can't move forward.
Yes.
What am I
Yes.
blocked? Like, what is it? And so I look at it and I see, okay, where's this coming from? So there are a few reasons what may be holding us back, or a lot of people feel fear or stuff in their bodies and they don't understand what's happening to them, but they're really evolving, they're shifting their vibration. So a lot of times when there's like irrational fears, where there's blocks or I just can't move forward, or they're experiencing certain repetitive things in their lives, what I like to look at and just channel and see, okay, where is this coming from? Is this like a soul level? So there's like a soul level problem where it's from this lifetime. Or we go, okay, well, maybe it's from a past life. Maybe this fear that you're feeling is from a past life. And when we can bring this to light, we can shift it and clear it out. And then you can kind of move forward. Or is this coming from ancestral? Are we working with ancestral healing at this point? Is this coming from our ancestors? Are we experiencing pain, fears, blocks because it's in our business or whatever it may be, because it's an ancestral thing? Are we carrying around baggage that isn't actually ours? And it's that simple shift that can help change everything.
I get it. I totally get it. And that's what you're going to get from sitting down with Zajac. Jamie.
I like it better.
Jamie Zajac. Jamie, we've blown by the hour, kid. Like we're past we're in overtime already. You know, back in Darcy's hockey world, you'd be thinking, oh, you guys are heading into overtime. We are. I don't know if I've asked you all the right questions you thought I was going to ask you. I don't know if I got out for you what you needed to get out here today or wanted to get out. I have thoroughly enjoyed the soul connection, the soul contract we formed.
Yeah. No, it was great. Oh, it's breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, I hope you'll come back.
Oh, here it's back.
There we go. I hope you'll come back.
I would love to come back. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. I felt like we could have chatted forever.
We absolutely can, and we will. We need to do a part 2. I also think you might need to come in and do a segment on the morning show from time to time. It would be cool to invite people in who might want to have an experience with a soul coach or do something really interesting and not only to get you out there in front of folks, but just keep the dialogue. And I see where you fit in the value chain, and I want to keep shining a light on you.
I love that. I would love to come chat with you guys on the morning show or whenever. It's kind of fun because you can have conversations, and I have there's a business podcast that wants me to come on once in a while, and it's more about helping channel the information about the businesses from as a collective and how we can help. I can bring forth messages from like a business perspective and mindset and see what wants to come through with the way that we're being called to innovate. So that's kind of fun.
Absolutely. Jamie, before we say goodbye, how can Business Athlete Nation get a hold of you? Where can they find you? We got it scrolling in the bottom there. Jamie.Zajac on Instagram. Looks like jamiezajac.com on the old World Wide Web. That's www. Because it's 1984. We're not talking about psychics. But Jamie Zajac. Jamie Zajac on the web. Jamie Zajac on Instagram. We're going to get her on LinkedIn Nation because we think we got to get her amongst our crew there, because I know she can help a lot of business folks in that world as well. Am I missing anything, Jamie?
On my podcast, I just started a podcast, so it's called Magnetic Soul, and yeah,
that's good.
So it's a fun place.
Awesome. What's the name of the podcast again? You broke up.
It's called Magnetic Soul.
Magnetic Soul. Excellent. We are going to get that up here on the old screen for a second while we say goodbye. Magnetic Soul. Why did you start a podcast?
You know what? This is a great story if we have a bit of time.
You do. 100%.
I was getting the download to do a podcast for a while, and I was kind of hesitant around it because there's a lot of podcasts out there, but I don't believe in that because there's room for everybody. But I was really trying to find a platform outside of Instagram, so where I could kind of create community and connect with people in a different way.
Yes.
And the podcast just kept coming up, and so I finally was like, all right, well, this doesn't really make sense, but I'm going to do it. And so it was just really my soul calling me to do something. And I always like to talk about, a lot of people stay so fixed and they're afraid of doing things that are kind of different, or like doesn't really fit into the bigger picture in their own minds. Like it's the logical linear way of like, I take step and then next step and then the next step. And we're moving away from that logical path and into less of a linear path. And so I always through the process of starting this podcast, I like love to share with people that, you know, when your soul's calling you, or your intuition, or whatever you want to call it, is calling you to do something different, you have to go off and do that thing. And it's like a key, it's a missing piece of the puzzle that's going to bring it back onto like the path that you want to take. And so when you have a vision, or you see that like the path, and you get this really clear feeling of like the dream or what you want to manifest or create for yourself, it's letting that go and letting it be a journey and following where you're being led, because it's not going to be step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. That's not the way it's going to get there. It's going to be this weird winding path, and you don't understand how. I think a lot of people hold themselves back because they think that it's like tying it productivity to money. And a lot of times the things that we are meant to do, it doesn't directly bring in money, but people are so focused on like money and like how it's going to bring in the bigger picture, but it always somehow comes around. So sometimes people really have to like put their head down and focus on that path that they're being called to do, even if they're not seeing direct results or money related, but it just fits in. You just have to follow that soul calling and focus in and commit to it, and just watch how everything unfolds and how it relates, or it becomes better than the vision that you originally had in your head.
Well, so that's what I love about the value I believe you would bring to an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I know entrepreneurs listen to this show because you bring Jamie into your world. She's going to be asking you questions you're not thinking about. She's going to be throwing things out at you from intuition and through experience that you probably aren't thinking about, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mrs. Entrepreneur. And I think what it does, it allows them to get a different view, right? Yeah. So inviting you into the conversation, typically, you know, business, we think of business very linear, and we sometimes need to have somebody challenge us to allow us to look at it in a different way and recognize there's going to be a lot of valleys and peaks and so forth, and you know, along that journey. So
I'm like the how often do people give up because they don't see immediate results?
Yes.
So like, no, it's not meant to be an easy path. Just because your soul is pulling you, or you're meant to do something, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You know, the universe, or whatever you know, whatever people feel comfortable calling it. It's not going to always make things easy, because that's not you're not going to be spoon fed. You have to work through it, and it's a process and it's a journey to getting there. But and the universe isn't going to just hand something over on a silver platter all the time. There is challenges, and it makes you stronger, and it makes you into who you're meant to be, and really like creates that power that is going to help propel you forward. And we're always learning. Our soul came in to learn experiences, our soul contract, right? We came here to learn certain things on our path. And so when we're meant to do things, it's part of the learning curve, the process. And so I like to say, because this is what the guidance that came from me is like, work through the kinks, work through the discomfort. And I think you're talking about a friend of yours in the beginning. I forgot his name.
Oh, Tony Elmore.
Tony.
Yeah.
So it's like, Tony, for example, it's like, well, he's terrified of being seen. Well, everybody's terrified of being seen. It's not easy to get on camera. It's not easy to record things. But when you think about it, like how many people, you know, it doesn't need to be perfect in order to be good. We have to just start. You can start a podcast with an app. You don't need a microphone. You don't need any of the things. You just need to start and let it evolve, right? And so I think when it comes to, you know, the barrier to entry is the perfectionism. And another barrier to entry is that people get scared of what people are going to think of them.
Yes.
And it's like when we can let go of the mental aspect of like what the so-called people that we're envisioning that are going to think about us, and rather than focus on those people who may not, you know, be kind about it or whatever, or may make fun of us, whatever you think is going to happen, but focus on how many people need people like you to get up on there. How many people are looking for you and your energy and your vibration and your messaging, and what a disservice it would be to hold yourself back, because then you're just holding back the people that you're meant to serve. And so thinking about it from that lens, and like, I think that's the big thing that I keep reminding myself, you know, anytime I'm doing something different or new. And in the process, when I was first putting myself out there, it's like, well, if they're not up there on stage doing it too, then I don't care about their opinion, because they don't understand how hard it is to put yourself out there and get on camera. It's the hardest thing you can do for most people, I would say. And you don't see the behind the scenes that goes in, you know, doing a video. And so if those people are the ones that are offline keyboard warriors are the ones doing it, like, who cares? Whatever. They're not up there doing it.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Those words come with such conviction, because it's all truth, right? It's,
And it's funny because I just met Tony by watching content on the feed, and I saw him slowly walking towards his fear, and I was watching, and then I'm like, okay. And then when I saw him face it, how can you not root for that?
Yeah.
Like, as a human being, I'm like, so talk about soul contracts. I'm like, I got to go connect with the guy. So I did. I went and connected with him, and I'm like, I got off the phone. I'm like, I got to help this guy out because how can you not celebrate somebody who's walking towards something that they're uncomfortable with? And then, we've created this platform for other human beings, and let's see what happens. So we shine the light on the guy, and but because I understand how difficult it is to get started. And I always joke, Jamie, imagine if I didn't start this 684 videos ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? Right.
Absolutely.
So I always remind myself of that, yeah, okay, I could have still been waiting, but it's got to get started. So
Yeah.
it's got to get started.
Because then you find the flow after, but you have to work through the kinks of it. It's uncomfortable for a bit, but then you get through it and you're like, oh, it's
for a bit.
now
Yeah.
easy. Yeah. So I think it's like not comparing yourself to people who've been doing it for a long time is really important. But it's true. It's like the courage to walk through that fire of fear and see what's on the other side of it. And that's where the growth is. Yeah. That's where the expansion is. And a lot of times it's like when you're about to do something new and different that you're terrified of, watch all the old stories that come up.
Oh,
and
yes.
Those are the stories that you're taught from, usually in childhood. It's your childhood stories of how you were reprimanded in some way. They come up.
Yes.
Or these blocks, and those are just the stories that we need to move through and shift the subconscious and rewire that and reprogram. So listen to the stories, listen to the fear, feel it, let it go, and start telling yourself a new story. And I think cold dipping has been really helpful for that for me personally. I realized that when I first cold dipped, I'm not a rain person. I'm a 40-degree weather. That's like Hawaii is like my type of person. Like that's me. And so it's absolutely crazy of me to be doing, ice tubs, but I realized that you can do anything. It's just your mind.
Yes,
so
it absolutely is.
Your mind can tell you, no, you can't sit in this ice tub, and that's going to be true. But then your mind can tell you the opposite too. And you just have to work through that. And it's really when you learn things from different things that you do, like cold dipping, for example, you just realize, wow, I'm capable of so much more if I tell my mind a different story.
Yes.
And some days aren't good. They suck. They don't, they're short because my mind, your mind's really active or you're feeling really active that day. Sometimes like you tell yourself that you can't do it, and it's a different story. So there's so much you can learn from your experiences.
Jamie Zajac, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of yours. I want to have you back anytime, all the time. I got to be honest with you. I didn't know what to expect going into our chat today. I didn't know if it was going to be all weird psychic shit or if it was going to be all crazy shit. I got to give you tons of props, and I don't think you know this. So I'm going to tell it to you straight up. You're very relatable. You make a very, I think, potentially out there conversation, very relatable to a lot of people. I want to help you find a way to get that message out there to more people. I think I'll rephrase that. I know more people need to hear your message. The way you deliver it, the way you communicate it, the way you make me feel by delivering it. Many people need to be a part of your message. So we're going to do what we can to help get that out there because I'm a big fan, and this was not what I expected at all. And I think a lot of people would be surprised, and I think welcoming Jamie Zajac into their world and into their businesses and into their conversations, because I think that the point of view you bring something that people aren't thinking about. So thank you for coming here today with me.
Thank you. My favorite thing when I do have people who are entrepreneurs come to me is I'm able to see people's highest potential and where they're going, like a blueprint of their business. And a lot of times they'll go, I didn't tell anyone that was my dream. No one knows that. And that's the best part, is like helping people get there, and being able to see where they're going and that it is possible, because some people just need that confirmation. So thank you so much for having me. It's just so fun to talk to you. And same here. I didn't know what we were going to talk about, but it always is meant to be what it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Jamie. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just politely put you back into the green room for a second. I'm going to say goodbye to Nation, and then I'm going to come back and cordially walk you out. All right. Okay. Awesome. Hang tight. You bet. Boom. All right. There she is. Jamie Zajac out for the day. 75 minutes. We went to big time overtime today. What a great conversation. And as I said, you guys heard me say in front of all of you, I did not expect that at all. And I'll just repeat myself. She made a conversation which I think could have been out there, extremely relatable. So I invite you to go knock on Jamie's door. Come find her on
Instagram, you go listen to her podcast, and it fits in with how we started the day today, right? We talked about Tony. You know what? Let's just quickly do this before we say goodbye. Tony.
I want to surprise somebody on the platform, and I want your help. I grabbed a coffee with Tony Elmore after I saw his video pitch a couple days ago. I watched Tony's journey to become vulnerable enough to unleash himself with video, and I saw how he got the courage to say, here's my offer. So you know what I did? I reached out to hear about his offer. And you know what he's making? He's making a 1-minute motion animated elevator pitch for you. But he's starting from scratch, and this is where you and me can help. I want to create a wait list for Tony. I want to get 20 people on his list, signing up, ready to go. So here's what we're going to do. Convinced him to get the first 5 people for $1,000 a piece. Dude, his solution is $5,000. Now, if we're all building personal brands, we all need elevator pitches, don't we? So join me in supporting Tony. No, I'm not getting paid for this. I just think it'd be pretty cool if we can help a guy out. And could you imagine if we created a wait list for the guy?
True story. And you know what? As of this time of the day, there's a wait list for Tony. So I invite you to go check it out because the wait list is only getting more expensive. So we're trying to do cool things. We're trying to help human beings, and we're trying to create soul contracts here, live in the lab with myself, Keith Bilous, and all of these awesome guests coming through. Tomorrow morning, myself, Nicole Bernard, and C. Marty Fitz going to join us tomorrow. And tomorrow at noon, I had his name. I just dropped it. We got tomorrow here at noon. And when Face ID does not want to work for you at the right time, we have Terry Fossum joining me tomorrow noon for a great conversation live in the lab. I'm going to get out of here so we can go walk our friend Jamie Zajac out of here until tomorrow. See you guys.